My name is Peter Kaplowski. This is the Toronto International Film Festival, and tonight, like every night, we are on the treaty territory, the Mississaugas of the First Credit Nation, and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We are grateful for the opportunity to work with the community tonight and every night of Midnight Madness, and as long as we are on this land. Thank you. Also, a reminder that this film is eligible for the Girls' People's Choice Midnight Madness Award. You've heard from me every night about this, but please do vote at tiff.net/vote. You really can change the trajectory of a film with that laurel. It also adds a screening, which we've never done before. We get to play a Midnight Madness film one more time at the festival, which is wicked. And we would also like to thank our friends at Spinach for their high regard of Midnight Madness. We would also like to thank Creative Artists Agency for providing us with this film. And this is the scary one, folks. I don't know if people have been following you on Twitter, but this is the scary movie. One thing that organically came about while putting this program together, starting with Blood Quantum, concluding with Crazy World, which, guys, I've mentioned this on other nights, the creators of Crazy World, who have never been in a movie theater before, will be coming to the Ryerson on Saturday night. You are their first audience, a Western audience in a movie theater they've ever experienced. But it got me thinking, one of the things that I was really trying to do with this year's lineup is the idea of showing films and showing that genre stories, regardless of the genre, horror, science fiction, thriller, whatever, they can come from anywhere. And there are so many communities that have their own stories to tell and deserve to be told. And tonight we're going to see a film that structurally and formally, it may remind you of some other great horror films, but the community behind the film, we don't see them enough in film, and we don't see their stories enough, and it's so exciting to see different facets of horror and different folklore, and that was something that really struck me about this film. You're going to walk away with new reasons not to sleep at night. I also want to emphasize, not only is this film awesome, but its director is amazing. He has been in this audience every night. Every night he has seen a Midnight Madness film, and he is here today. Please put your hands together for Keith Thomas.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Toronto. Good morning. I think it is morning. Look, I'm just overjoyed that we're premiering this film here. You are literally, it is a world premiere, and you are literally the first audience in the world to see this. So, it's not like it's been screened anywhere, not even for industry. You're the first people to really see this movie. I hope you're ready to get Jewish, because it's about to get really Jewish up in here. And I do hope that, not only do you get those Jewish vibes, but I hope Peter's right. And if I can cause you any nightmares, I will be very, very pleased with that. So, enjoy the vigil.
And Keith, you're not alone. Who's here with you?
So we've got a lot of folks with us here today. We've got, let's see who's coming up first. We've got some producers. We've got Raphael Margolis and J.D. Lifshitz.
Yes.
As well as Adam Margolis. And jumping on stage like a monkey here is Dave Davis.
Dave Davis, everyone.
Malky Goldman. And we've got Menashe Lustig is in the house as well. Wherever you want.
While you guys are thinking of some questions, I'm going to start things off with, there's no question why one would want to make a horror film steeped in Jewish mythology. There's so much history, there's so much culture, but specifically the Mezek, what drew you to that demon?
So I knew that I really wanted to go deep into kind of Jewish theology and mythology, and Dybbuk's have been done. Like there's Dybbuk boxes and Dybbuk's here and Dybbuk's there, and there's a golem, and that's not so scary. So I had to kind of dig deep into Talmudic literature, and believe it or not, the Mazik is real. It's a real thing. It's a demon that inhabits abandoned places. The Mazik translates as destroyer. Unfortunately, it's not very well described, so I kind of had to envision what this thing would look like and how it would function.
So what kind of inspired the look? Where did you draw from?
You know, the most important thing for me for these scares and their effectiveness was to root them in the character. So Dave's character, Mr. Litvak's character, that's actually Ron Cohen, who was Lynn Cohen's husband in the film in real life. The key was, for rooting in the character, it was both of these people could not let go of terrible traumas in their past. So in thinking in that, I thought, well, this would be interesting if the demon somehow represents that in a very physical form with the head turned around backwards, always stuck facing the past, not able to move forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's an image that you see in in some Christian imagery as well, like Dante's Inferno and some depictions of hell. So, very, very compelling stuff. I would like to hear from the rest of the people in the production if they have any history or familiarity with the concept of the Mezek in their own lives, or never.
We believe that some people who are scared of this, like you have, like how you say, melancholia, it hits you. Mm-hmm. If you didn't afraid of them, mm-hmm. you fight them. Mm-hmm. You have to fight it, yeah.
When writing this, when commencing production, did you find this location, or did you have to fabricate it? Because it's a pretty scary apartment.
No, we got very, very lucky. This is a real place. This is a real house, and
like downstairs, upstairs, all of it.
Our
was
executive producer's house. In fact, he had bought it. We got incredibly lucky, and
we got it pre-rehab. That's the bottom line. We had to get it pre-rehab.
And an older woman had passed away in the house, and we left it exactly as it was.
Wow.
And then moved in and proceeded to make it more Hasidic. We had a lot of great advisors, associate producers who are here tonight, in terms of like exactly where the mezuzahs would be, exactly the color of the walls, and then make that house into what it needed to be, but all real.
I also want to just call out Liz Tunkel and Michael Uzerski, who both couldn't be here tonight, but Michael did the score that you all heard, which is fantastic. And Liz was the production designer who worked with the advisors to create the world that you guys just saw with Keith's vision, of course.
Thank you. Do we have questions from the audience? I have a few more, but let's get this started. Right there.
It's clear that Menashe and the writers have some exposure to traditional Judaism, but I'm curious about Keith and Dave. What exposure before making this film did you have to Orthodox Judaism?
Just to clarify, he's the writer and director.
Yeah. And so Dave and I both have very non-Jewish names, but we both are members of the tribe. And so, we each kind of had our own journeys into this. I became more familiar with Judaism. I grew up kind of culturally Jewish, but then started attending shul or synagogue later and later. And I actually went to a rabbinical school. I'm not a rabbi, but I went to rabbinical school and I studied, and being a morbid person that I am, I did my dissertation there on monsters in Jewish literature and Jewish theology. So that's where it came from me.
I want to add something. You could learn from everyone. I grew up Orthodox and everything. I never know what a mazik is. You teach me. I know the concept, but I didn't know the name is mazik. And I was arguing with him. Mazik, maybe Dibik. He said, Dibik, something else. Oh, I didn't know.
I also learned a lot during the filming of this project about myself as well. I could have easily have been a member of this community if my great-grandparents had a different mindset coming to the United States. And I learned through this project how close I am to this community, and as a result, I became a lot closer to my Jewish heritage. I was bar mitzvahed, but I would say I had more trouble learning my lines for my bar mitzvah than I did for this film. I learned how great, I'm sorry, I just saw this for the first time, so I'm still sort of processing.
Dave, you give an incredible performance in this film, and I have some questions about that, but please continue.
He learned Yiddish for this movie.
I think, as far as, do we have any personal experience with the Mazik? I think we all have our demons, and every community has their demons, and some communities have more difficult demons to deal with than others. And this is a community that is beautiful and rich with culture, and struggles with problems and issues that many communities struggle with. And so learning about this community and becoming friends with so many wonderful people from this community, it gave me a new outlook and a new way to approach life and a new way to view myself and my past. So it was really an amazing experience for me.
Just to add, a lot of the cast, obviously Menashe's in the community, but the majority of the cast, the folks at the opening scene who were in the Footsteps meeting, the majority, if not all of them, were at one point in the community. Malky, here at the end, was a member of the Hasidic community and has gone into the secular world through Footsteps, but we try to keep it as authentic as possible in all the casting as well.
And David was so willing to learn every single line to say it the right way, how we say it.
Malky didn't just act in this movie, she also assisted with all of the Jewish art, she taught Dave the accent, she did so much more, and she has an associate producer credit also.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions? Yes, right there.
Okay, first of all, I'm a horror movie bitch, and I haven't screamed out loud since like The Concrete Insidious.
Thank you.
I'm proud of her because I'm a loud house. My question was, what was the most difficult or scariest part to film either as an actor or like technical?
Difficult or scariest part to shoot?
It depends. Each piece had its own, difficult nature. I'd say the toenail scene was a lot of fun. I should call out our director of photography, Zach Cooperstein, who is somewhere here. There he is, standing up right there. Believe it or not, that's Zach's toe right there. It's very, very hard to peel a toenail off with your foot in some grout, and Zach has childish toes, and so he stepped in and he was able to do that. So that was fun. The whole rising up of the under the sheet and sitting up in the blood thing, that was exciting.
I was going to ask about that effect because I actually love how subtle the effect when Dave embraces the body for it to then, in one shot and fairly seamlessly, like sort of just crumble into a blanket.
Yeah, and all practical. So.
I think the majority of the movie is entirely practical effects.
Yeah, the majority of it is. It's with that we you use the dolly kind of as a hydraulic. We built essentially another stretcher with the sheet on top, and then had a stunt actress underneath there, and the dolly lifted her up under the sheet, and then she sat up, and we had her rigged with blood that would then go off, and then Dave would hug her. And as he hugged her, the hydraulic went down, and so she disappeared out of the sheet.
It's not as simple as he's making it sound.
I just want to take a quick second.
It sounds pretty right. It sounds like it went flawlessly.
I just want to take a quick second to call out Zach Cooperstein, who shot the movie, which looks incredible, and he has a movie here called The Climb that also looks incredible. And Brett Bachman.
Brett Bachman, who did Color Out of Space.
Brett is here, our editor.
3 movies here. And Juan Campos, who did the sound.
Other questions in the audience? Yes, right over there. Significance to using the name Litvak.
We're doing a deep dive here on the Litvak name. This is almost above my pay grade to answer this one. I think Rafi or JD.
It's high irony. Everything in this movie is symbolism. Litvak is the opposite of a chassid, which is what Mr. and Mrs. Litvak are.
But to clarify, and in the Jewish community, in the Orthodox community, Litvak connotates something, but it was purely accidental. That
the way you said it,
I just like the name Litvak.
No, but the way you said it, Litvak.
But it means something within the community.
We could have avoided controversy by changing it, but it's perfect.
There are different groups of the community. There's some that are more that are seen as more academic, and those are called the Litvaks. However, I just like the name Litvak, and so it didn't actually have any meaning until we started working on it. And we're like, wait.
Well, Lithuania is
funny
really good
coincidence.
question.
Lithuania.
We had so
Lithuanian.
many conversations and fights about that, and then everyone agreed that Litvak works. So we.
So we've got a Litvak here.
Dave, I was so taken by your performance in this film, and there's this, the physicality of the sequence in which your bones are breaking. How did you prepare for that sequence?
Well, the first night that I met Zach, actually, he and Keith were walking the house, and they were looking at the street outside the house where we filmed that. And so we began to look at how much space we had, and we sort of reverse engineered it in that Keith told me, well, by the time you get to this area of the sidewalk, you have to be completely crippled. And so we had been discussing the hand. It began with the hand. And then it was just, I spent a lot of time walking around and then just trying to figure out what would go next. And we designed the body parts to fall apart in a specific sequence. And I practiced that just sort of on my own. And that way we knew, we blocked it out such that when I hit certain marks, certain body parts would begin to fail. And that way when we turned the scene around and came backwards, I was able to have those body parts come back into use in reverse order. And that was a lot of fun because we shot that entire sequence completely out of order. So we shot the beginning of the scene first, and then we shot the end of the scene, and then we shot the second part and the second to last part, and then we had to do, so it was a lot to keep in there, but it was a lot of fun to do as well.
And I will say it was incredibly cold that night. Like it was all that breath. It looks amazing, and Zach did a great job kind of capturing that. But it was freezing.
Yeah, no Titanic breath. It was all real.
Yeah,
And
no,
Kate
that was all
says,
real.
do it again, do it again.
Do it again, do it again. Let's keep doing it.
Other questions in the audience? Yes, right over there. In the Jewish tradition, what is the consequence of not observing a vigil?
Yeah, so the vigil is an interesting and ancient tradition, essentially. The soul, when someone dies, they need to be buried quite quickly. The soul is kind of hovering just above the body there. And when it is in soil, the body can then ascend. I mean, the soul can ascend. And the vigil was seen as this way of protecting the soul as it's there in a kind of a very fragile and sensitive state. There are actually a lot of rules around how the shomer is supposed to do the vigil. You know, it's not as though the house will burn down if, you know, the vigil is broken, but ideally it's something that the community is doing. It's seen more today, less than ancient times, seen more today as a very sort of natural part of mourning and a way for the community to, you know, come together and observe this ritual, which is, you know, seen as just as important ritual as birth, is kind of the leaving, and that the community's there helping, you know, somebody depart.
In your research, did you ever encounter a story or incident about a vigil gone wrong in the in a similar fashion as this film?
So the kind of genesis of this was when I was doing my graduate work, and I was in an Orthodox synagogue, and I had heard two older men behind me talking about a shomer who had left, and they didn't say why. But of course, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Why would a shomer leave? Like, this is an important job, because he was scared. What was he scared of? And so it just kind of started from there.
One more question we have room for. Yes, right over there.
Yeah, so the
question was about
songs-
the music choices in the film. Sorry, just to repeat.
Yeah, no, the music choices. So the first song, the song that Dave listens to, I listened to, that's Trevor Something is the name of the musician, kind of a synthwave artist. And I was listening to it while I was writing the script. And now, putting myself in Dave's head, I was like, that's what he's going to listen to. Rafi, you want to talk about the end song?
Yeah, sure. The end song is a song called Ashrei. It's by a Hasidic band in Brooklyn called Zusha. And I was actually left alone in the edit one day. I don't know how that happened.
He just snuck it in there.
And I was like, to Brett, I was like, let's put in this song and see what it sounds like. And then we dropped it in to have there's like a drop of the song to be when the movie cuts to black. And then where the song ended up starting was after the last line of dialogue. So it just kind of fit perfectly, and I thought it'd be nice to end the movie with a Jewish song.
And we like the feel of it. I mean, this is a cool band. These are like Hasidic hipsters. If you ever want to check them out, they're pretty cool.
Technically,
Zusha.
the term is neo-Hasidic.
Neo-Hasidic.
What was your follow-up? Oh, Psalm. Sorry. That's my fault.
Here we are talking all about those songs. No, the Psalms. Right, these are the Psalms that are in the Tehillim, the book that he uses. These are the traditional Shomer ones. So it's, I can't even remember exactly which numbers they are.
Something else, 91.
91? Anyway, they're supposed to be repeated. And, ideally this is said throughout the vigil, and typically, there's changing of the guard and multiple people sit the vigil, but it is true that in the Hasidic community there are shomers who do this for a living. That was another interesting angle.
Yeah, but this 91... Oh.
We decided just to translate the Yiddish. We wanted to keep the Hebrew untranslated. And, for me, huge fan of The Exorcist, I thought, they don't translate that Latin. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, but you could...
So I thought it'd be interesting if the exorcism sort of scene and, when he's putting on, to fill in that it was, I thought everyone would just get it. They'll get what's happening here in terms of ritual, and you don't necessarily need to know exactly what he's saying.
Yeah, but the chapter 91 is talking about, you could look it up in Psalm. Look, it talks about putting away the diamond.
Yeah.
Look it up, 91. One more question right there. It was about how you prepared for your scary sequence on the phone.
I'm not scary. I had a very good director, Keith Thomas. And he brought out the scariest in me.
Well, please, put your hands together for the vigil. And remember to vote for the film, tiff.net/vote. Tomorrow night, it's the 20th century. Thank you.